Embiid got a piece of it. Running the floor. Embiid stuffs it.
Harden for three. James Harden with his second triple.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Pick Swap Podcast. It is me and Sean Bernard. Sean, after a loss last night, how are you feeling today?
Not great. I mean, it was a chance to steal one for sure. Frustrating. They got to get one. They got to get game two now. They just got to fight in this series. I mean, we'll get into the full spiel. I'm not as down bad as I think a lot of people are, but it definitely sucks.
Yeah, last night it's one of those ones that I was frustrated because they played themselves out of that game, right?
Yeah.
And there's a couple things that I want to get into. Maybe not necessarily a hot take, something I have a take on. But there's a lot of things that they did well, I think, at some points last night. The second quarter was fantastic, right? They weathered the storm early. Tobias Harris looked like the best Tobias Harris we've seen all season. And the only one that has showed he gave a shit last night, and played really well. Harden was okay. Harden was good early. Tyrese Maxey struggled from the floor, and then there was a whole bunch of other shit that happened. But what was the biggest thing that stuck out to you? I guess the biggest issue, what held them back the most? I already know what you're gonna say, but just tell me what it is.
For me, I'm just gonna say straight up shooting. I mean, 6 of 34 from three, 17.6%. They shot 43% from the field. They simply the Heat didn't shoot well either. But if the Sixers just are shooting at a somewhat okay rate, they can survive that game. And there were big misses too. I mean, Niang going cold, 0 for 7, or just about the worst time. Danny 1 for 5. Maxey and Harden were combined 3 for 13. It's just all from three. I mean, there just wasn't the knockdown, and just offensive rebounds were brutal too. The DeAndre Jordan experiment is being put on full display. Doc Rivers has his heels so dug in on this issue, and I want to talk about that more too. But I think just the shooting in general was the biggest thing for me. They're not going to shoot that poorly all the time. With Joel out of the lineup, the 3-point production is even more critical, and they just didn't have it last night. They could not find their stride from deep. Niang was especially noteworthy for me. There was a time where it was clear he just didn't quite have it. I kind of respect him going down shooting, but he was just jacking and it was not helping.
Yeah, one of my roommates asked me, he goes, at some point, don't you think they'd stop? And I said, well, if you're George Niang, if you're Danny Green, you say, I've been doing this for a long ass time. And I shoot 40% for my career. So even if I miss 6, statistically, the next one should go in. And you should believe at some point that these are going to go in. You're a professional basketball player, and your main attribute to the team is shooting. You got to keep shooting them. So I didn't have a problem with that. It sucked to see him miss, not just miss, but miss badly and miss and then put his head down. I saw at one point after he missed the last one, George missed one real short and turned around and mouthed back the floor. I was like, that's bullshit. Don't do that. But the rest of it, I was okay with. The shooting, that kind of thing happens, I guess. And Miami plays good defense. I want to say something about Miami. Play a good game and you beat them. Play a good game without Joel Embiid and you beat them. And I know that's even something that's hard to do. Obviously, Joel Embiid is the team here. But they were in that game, and that was one of the worst games they've played all postseason. Yeah. Shooting wise, rebounding wise, defensive wise. They offense for a majority of the third quarter, they just had no idea how to even get the ball moving. They were just so stagnant. They had got no movement. It turned into ISO ball. And if Tyrese Maxey has a good night, if one of the shooters can make a couple, that game is entirely different. There was a 6-point game in the fourth quarter, and that was the worst game that we've seen them play maybe since Game 5, but the first series. But out of these two games, those are the two worst. So yeah. I'm not that upset about that game because it showed that Miami is really beatable.
Yeah, no, I think this was a game that both teams are upset with their performance. I think the Heat leave that game saying we let a Sixers team, which just straight up is not that good. Without Joel Embiid, they just straight up, this is not a roster that is built to excel. When we cut down to the strengths and weaknesses in this series, I mean, the Heat are better coached, have a better system, have a better overall shooting, better overall defense. but the Sixers have Joel Embiid. And when you take away them having Joel Embiid, they really don't have anything in terms of advantages. And I get the hope was for Harden to step up. He certainly did not. I was very frustrated with Harden last night. I'm usually a Harden defender in terms of what he creates, what he does, but there just has to be some sort of like desire to take over that game. And I saw none of it last night. I mean, shooting 13 shots, 5 of 13 from the field, you just got to go down shooting. Like when we're looking at the Heat roster, who are James Harden should have unanimously been the best player on that court last night, and he wasn't. And I think it's pretty clear he wasn't. Tyler Hero shot the ball 17 times. Jimmy Butler shot the ball 16 times. These guys should not be getting up more shots than you if you're James Harden at this stage. And to be like, you have to be completely aware of the situation in terms of like, Joel's not there. This is your team. This is why you were traded for, to step up a little bit. And Maxey, it's hard for me to keep like, I'm split on just throwing it on Maxey because on one hand, like he's 21 years old. This is Harden and Embiid's teams in terms of taking him to the championship, and like this is their role to play. But at the same time, like we've talked Maxey up into being this guy that he's been like the guy ready for the moment. That now the moment is here. Like you got to do it, my guy. You got to step up a little bit, and it's frustrating to see him go passive too. He shot 6 of 15, 1 of 6 from 3. He missed a couple of the deep ones that he has been connecting on. Scored 19. I mean, on like a Joel Embiid day, that's a okay Maxey day. We can live with that. When he's not there, that's just not enough. And there has to be more assertiveness from Harden and Maxey. I was very disappointed to not see that. And from the Sixers aspect, in terms of frustration, like they should be frustrated that like they did all the things right in the first half, that they overcame the deficit that was created largely by DeAndre Jordan being the starting center. They overcame that. They scrapped back in this game to have a halftime victory, and to let that slip away was certainly frustrating how it went. That it was like, it felt like they were on the ropes and they got off it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I want to say to talk about Harden, like Miami is very well coached. You alluded to that. Miami knows how to take those guys off the game. Like Harden was getting double teamed 35 feet from the basket. Like anytime there was a screen coming up, they are not letting him do anything. Like they're gonna come up, they're gonna make PJ Tucker stay. And whoever, it is, whether it's, they were trying to get Hero on him all the time. But the second any one of those weaker defenders got switched onto him, they're bringing 2. And then the other guys didn't connect. And, he ends with 5 assists. And that's much lower than what we're used to seeing him. And I understand. I want him to take more shots. I want him to get downhill more. I want him to shoot more threes. Like, I don't care what it is. In game 2, he has to come out swinging. And he has to know, like, we're going to go live and die by what I do tonight. And like, I don't think he should be afraid. Like that's been James Harden. That's who James Harden was for many years. Yeah. So I don't know why that seems to be difficult for him. But like, again, I'm not falling apart because of this game, because I saw too many things that I liked. And obviously like the shooting night, you can't do too many things about that. That happens. It's unfortunate when it happens. And it sucks that, this Sixers bench is just not very good. I want to talk about the rotations because, oh my God. Like, I think that, like, Doc Rivers, we did our best. We really did, you and I. And I think a lot of Sixers fans really did, to say, okay, you know what, Doc, you did a really good job in round 1. We'll give it up for you. Congrats. And then he literally pissed his pants yesterday. Like, to roll out DeAndre Jordan,
you had to know
Furkan Korkmaz, and Matisse Thybulle in a 6-point ball game with 8 minutes left in the game, to bring in Furkan Korkmaz or Paul Millsap at all is absurd. That's a fireable offense. Like he should be put on administrative leave now. That's insane, dude. What, like, who can rationalize that? I know you're not going to be able to, because no one can really, but like, what are we doing?
Yeah, so 2 points real quick. My last point on Harden, and then we'll move on to Doc. James Harden for the entirety of his career has been like the guy that's like an isolation master, like one of the best of all time, and just in a one-on-one fashion, he will find a way to score or create a shot, because he's added that to his repertoire as well. The Raptors series, I big time gave him a pass in terms of that's a nightmare matchup in terms of you're swallowed up by the 6'9" length, the athleticism, the mobility, and the opposing defenders. Just about that entire roster. Nightmare matchup for Harden. The Heat is not that team. They have plenty of guys who are exploitable in one-on-one. And for like the list of guys that Harden being able to hunt out is just becoming shorter and shorter. And the fact that like he certainly was hunting for Tyler Hero, which is he totally should because he's a beyond below average defender and a guy that pretty much any team should have circled on their scouting report for who to attack. But like there's guys like if you're lined up and you have like Gabe Vincent on you, like you should be able to win that matchup too. Like
or Victor Oladipo. I don't give a shit.
Like there should be more than one person on the court that James Harden should be able to take in a one-on-one fashion, and that has to be a part of the offense. And like I've thought I've passed it off to him being like more passive in the offense until then, but I'm at the point where I just don't think he has it. And there's like an aspect of like I think he's giving it his all, and he simply isn't there. Like it's like if you got a pitcher on the mound and he's throwing 91-mile-per-hour fastballs, and you're saying like I need you to hit 95 right now, and he's like I just simply can't. Like I can't throw it that hard. That's kind of where I feel like we're at with James Harden in terms of like he just is incapable of being the guy at this point in his career. He does not have the legs in him. He doesn't have the burst. I don't really know what exactly it is, whether it's the hamstring, whether it's the age, but I just don't think he's that guy. And I think we need to accept that reality of he's not coming back at any point. To move on to Doc Rivers, I'm less mad at Doc Rivers than I think just about anybody. And the reasoning why, I mean, what do you want him to do? I guess like what is the better option in terms of these lineups? Is like to me, this is way more on the roster as a whole and the Daryl Morey issue than this is the Doc Rivers. Like the DeAndre Jordan, I won't defend that whatsoever, but you just had to see it coming. I would have been shocked if it wasn't DeAndre Jordan that started. When looking at the lineups, it's like I respect him at least trying. I thought when he switched to zone, it was effective for stretches, which he hid Paul Reed in fouls because of that. The zone was the best like in-game adjustment I saw, and just trying things in the lineup in terms of playing Toby at the 5, giving Millsap a shot. Like they're at least he's like going down fighting. And I'm not a Doc Rivers guy by any means. I think he's been bullied into attempting to coach his ass off more than anything. Like I think he's feeling questioned, as he should be, because he's been questioned by a ton of people, but he's trying to put on this performance. But I just feel like he doesn't simply have it in the cards to like carve out a winning formula right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. And I do agree with you. Like having Paul Millsap and DeAndre Jordan on your roster at all in the year 2022, crazy. Especially when you have a lack of wing depth, especially when you have like, I don't know though. I mean, I genuinely think, and I know like, I don't want to be this guy, but Charles Bassey has to play. Like,
yeah.
If you're exhausting all of your options, if you're going to Paul Millsap, I really don't know if there's anything that Paul Millsap gives you other than being 33 or 35 or whatever, 37. Hell, I don't know how old Paul Millsap is. But like the fact that Charles Bassey isn't 33 is the only reason that he's not playing basketball right now. Like he's available last night. He's coming back from an injury. He got in the game. He can block shots. He can rebound, and he can throw down lobs. Those are the three things on the criteria to play center alongside James Harden. Rim run, protect the rim, and pick and roll. Like, there you go. Those are the three. And he checks those boxes like easily. Like, I love Paul Reed. I think a lot of us are on, Paul Reed, but he fouls too much. He's a reckless defender. I like him. He's good chaos. We've talked about that a lot. Like, he's accepted chaos. But he's chaos. The Paul Reed experience, we were laughing about it last night. Like, he gets it, fights for an offensive rebound, the loose ball on the floor. He picks it up, and then instead of kicking it, he turns around, he takes 2 dribbles against Bam Adebayo and throws up a lefty layup that he misses. And you can't be mad at it because it's like, thank you, Paul. You're at least showing some effort here. Yeah. You're trying. Like, DeAndre Jordan looks so bad. Like, I know our guy Tiago, he posted a video last night. It's like, at least show some effort. And DeAndre Jordan just stood there, acted like he was boxing out a ghost. Ball went up. Okay. Bam got it. Yeah, another layup. Okay, he got it. Okay, now I'm going to foul. Like, there is no spot on any NBA roster for a guy of DeAndre Jordan's caliber. I don't care how good of a player he is, or good of a teammate he is. I don't give a shit. We just got an update. Lowry's going to miss game 2, so you have an open door here. Mm-hmm. You got to do something different though. It's got to be Reed and Bassey, and then if those two don't work, then you go back because you already see how bad the other 2 options are. So you got to exhaust all of them.
Yeah, there was a point in time in the NBA where being tall was good enough. Like, the NBA is past that point. DeAndre Jordan is one of the, like, sole remaining player. Probably he might even be the sole remaining player in terms of, like, his soul skill is just being tall. And for a guy whose calling card is being 7 feet tall and just looking like a center, to end with 2 rebounds in last night's game is just absurd. And starting the game, the Heat were just scoring so easily around the basket. Like, they just were attacking and laying it up around him. Like, the Sixers were down 10, 15 points very quickly in that game, purely from attacking DeAndre Jordan. And I mean, in the regular season, opponents shot 77.2% at the rim against DeAndre Jordan. That is insane. For reference, the only player on the Sixers roster who shoots that high at the rim is Miles Powell, who had 2 attempts this season. It was 2 for 2. Outside of that, there's not a single player that has that percentage. And to just be driving at that, it's insane. And I mean, Paul Reed, like you said, he absolutely has to improve on the fouling, the weirdness in his game. But the thing that I just continually will give him a pass on is, what were we doing these last 6 months? Like, why were we not getting these workable issues out of the way during the regular season? Because that's what the regular season is for, to learn your team, to learn who's best in the rotation, to develop guys. And it's just malpractice on Doc's part to not have been developing this guy for these moments, because we clearly need him. And I get, it's obviously complicated because of the Drummond issue, because we traded Andre Drummond midseason. We thought the backup center problem was fixed, but it's clearly not. And I don't know. I also, to swing it back to Morey, for me, this is you can't ever bring DeAndre Jordan here. This is Doc Rivers is going to play him, so don't even give him the option. Make him play B-ball Paul. Make him play Charles Bassey. You give him the cards that you want him to play. And I think that kind of should have been understood from the start. This is not a new thing that DeAndre Jordan is cooked. I mean, he was bad with the Lakers. He's been bad these past couple years.
He's bad with the Nets.
Bad with the Nets. This is not there were very few guys being great pickup. This is a guy that still has life. He's just cooked. And at one time, you were a fine player in the NBA. You absolutely were. This isn't a disrespect for your track record, but at this point in time, you're just incapable of playing NBA basketball. And for Doc Rivers, I mean, he's made it crystal clear in the presser after that he will continue to be starting. But it's just I'm more pissed at just the lack of planning over the regular season and development of B-ball Paul, in the fact that if these kinks had been worked out, then he could be an incredibly effective player right now, and they just weren't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fully with you on all of those points. It's just so frustrating, man. It really is. And when you go to Morey, they'll look down this roster and be like, you know what, we need a 4th center. Or just cut one of them. One of them had to be cut at some point, because now you're looking down the line, of your bench, and you don't have a second tier of playable guards. Matisse Thybulle is a non-factor.
Yeah.
He is a non-factor. And I saw someone tweet last night, he lost himself a shitload of money, lot of money over the last 2 months. He's going to be cheap for the rest of the way, because there was a point in time he got his steal and he immediately looked up who do I get it to? It's dude, you are a wing. You're a 3. Most guys of that play your position can dribble. Danny Green is old. Paul Millsap is old. DeAndre Jordan is old. All of these guys, I hated the way they looked at points last night, because it was just God damn, when did we become the old ass team? I want to point out how much I'm gonna hate the Miami Heat by the end of this round. I want to say mean things about Tyler Hero. I'll hold it off for now. But dude, the bullshit is already starting. PJ Tucker, I respect, but he's annoying. Jimmy Butler, I don't respect, because the only person he talked shit to last night was George Niang. It's congrats. You picked out the good one there. And the rest of them, I mean, but they played Dwayne Dedmon, and I was okay, if you're gonna match up minutes with anyone, you should be matching up DeAndre Jordan with Dwayne Dedmon, because Dwayne Dedmon is better than DeAndre Jordan, but he's not fast. He's not gonna blow by him. He's not gonna do all the things. And it's DeAndre Jordan at the beginning of that game was literally pick and roll. He was conceding. He was giving up 5, 6, 7 feet of space, and guys were still eating that up and getting to the rim and laying the ball up or dishing it to Adebayo for a dunk. Jimmy Butler had a couple pull-up. Vincent had a couple pull-ups. He concedes so much space because he can't keep up with any ball handler, that if they're either going to blow by him. But when he stays back, he's still just gives up late. Like I really don't understand like how. I know Doc said, "Oh, we like DJ. We're gonna start him whether you like it or not." Okay, that's insane.
Yeah.
But did he elaborate? Did he say, "Oh, here's why we like DJ. Here's what he does well"? Because if you look at those 17 minutes, I don't see a goddamn thing that he did well at all.
He did a little bit for fairness to Doc. He talked about how the second half, how he came out and played really well, and that's what they need from him all the time. He talked about how they want a big roller in the offense. I mean, he can sugarcoat it. He can squint at it through whatever lenses he want to look. The fact of the matter is, like, DeAndre Jordan just can't play playoff minutes, and the Doc Rivers seems to be about the only person in the universe that's surprised that this is the realization. I think some of this is a major credit to Joel and his value to this team in terms of like just how drastic it is night and day when he's on the court versus off. And a lot of this, I'm circling back to Morey in terms of Morey's been on record talking about how like Philly fan, and this is where we get into like the obviously Philly fans know more than the general just sports fan in terms of in the most cases. And Philly fans in this case have been around longer than Morey and Doc. And we've seen this story with the backup center plenty of times in a way that like they never had, because they've never had a roster built around Joel Embiid. Because the reason that's different for the Sixers is Joel Embiid is the most important player on both sides of the court. On offense and defense, Joel Embiid runs this Sixers team. So because of that being the case, like in general, you don't think much of a backup center because there's a couple minutes there. You can give them run, whatever. But for all these teams that these guys have been parts of, that's been because the starting center has not been responsible for so much. So to have that drop off from your starting center being the guy that's the superstar of your team, most dominant player on both sides of the ball, to drop off to a below average backup center leaves such a massive gap. And on one hand, you're asking the rest of the team to step up in that. Those are the minutes where Harden and Maxey are supposed to take over. But on the other, like, you just have to think about this a little more. Like, to Nikola Jokic with the Nuggets, Boogie Cousins has been an incredibly valuable part of that team. And DeMarcus Cousins, I'm not a major fan of, but he's a guy that in a limited role can be incredibly effective. And he would run circles around any of the Sixers backup center options right now. But for the Sixers specifically, like that role cannot be undervalued whatsoever. It's so clear that you can lose a game in those minutes when Joel's not on the court. And now with him not here at all, we're just seeing how drastically, like, none of these guys, it's not even like DeAndre Jordan's like the defensive guy and they can make up for the offensive liability. Yeah. Like there's not like a redeeming quality in his game other than him being tall. And when you're getting 2 rebounds, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And like, I don't even know, man. It's so frustrating because to look back on all these years and we finally this year coming into this year with Drummond, we thought, okay, these problems are solved. And DeMarcus Cousins was available. Like, let's talk about that for a second. Like, just for a quick second.
They tried to
He wasn't available for very long, but he was. And to look back on that and to look back on the guys that potentially were around to have gone through the trade deadline, making the big trade, but not making any of the smaller ones. Like, and I know we kind of have alluded to this a couple times talking about, the guys that they look for. But when you go into this offseason, depending on when this season ends, there's got to be like just a couple things. Like there has to be 2 goals really with what the type of players you need. You need an athletic wing, a 2-way wing.
Yeah, probably multiple.
Probably multiple. You probably need a starter and a guy or 2 off the bench. You need a 2-way wing and you need a good backup center. You need a guy that can just be like, you need a default center. You don't even need anyone to do anything. Like, you don't need them to be like great. You don't even need them to be really good. You need them to be solid, and you need them to play 15 minutes a night and give you, I don't know, 6 points and 8 rebounds. Like, I don't know, but it's just so frustrating because those guys do exist and those guys are out there, and you have 4 guys on your roster that aren't that. So you don't really have many options right now. And you're kind of, like to what you said, to give Doc some credit. He tried everybody. I mean, he didn't really try Bassey. And I think that has to be, in the cards, at least for game 2.
Yeah. And real quick, like there's no reason in my mind for Paul Reed not to foul out of every single game. Like,
yep.
That's your pitch count. That's what he's got. Just use him. Like he played 13 minutes last night. He had 5 fouls. they did not put Paul Reed in like a crucial time in the fourth quarter. Like when the game was starting to get away, there was no reason not to. All right, this is our best shot. Like throw him out there.
Yep.
Like if he fouls out, we're in the same spot. So to me, like I get like what Doc is saying about the fouling being an issue, but it's insane to me to operate your rotations in fear of a guy getting in foul trouble. Like if he does, which he likely will, then you deal with it. But you have to give your best shot off the rip. Like you have to let Paul Reed do his thing because it benefits the Sixers in a better way. And if he gets into foul issues, you deal with that. But that's kind of the deal. And like for a guy that is supposed to be a backup center, likely will never be a starter in the NBA. That's fine. Like backup centers can foul all they want. That's kind of part of the deal. So like playing 13 minutes last night, if Joel's here, that's perfect. That's what we're wanting. Like he did everything we're hoping for a backup center. The fact he's in this magnified role is obviously an issue, but I just disagree with the logic of using your rotation in fear of him getting in foul issues. And I don't think that swings a game in the capacity that Doc keeps articulating that it does. And I hated that logic. I also think Doc as a whole, not threw the towel in too early, but the game was not over when we were emptying the benches. And that frustrated me as well, especially in a game that, not that it was a must win, but it would have been very nice to find a way to win that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like Paul Reed on the bench with 5 fouls is no different than Paul Reed on the bench with 6.
Yeah, exactly.
So like him not playing 20 minutes because you think he's going to foul and him playing 15 because he sat with 5, like really, when you look at it, no different. So I totally agree with you there. I don't know, man. Do you have anything else on game one? I like the last thing I really want to say about it, like in reference to it, is like they did not play well. The Sixers did not have a good game. They went to also actually rewind. Miami is a joke of a sports city. You are a pathetic,
Yeah, the stands were bad.
embarrassing city. Game 1 of round 2 in the playoffs for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and your stadium was empty. You were hearing the Jumbotron more than you were hearing the fans. That is a shame. And that would never, ever happen here. So say what you want about this city. Say what you want about these fans. That was an embarrassment. Literally, there were 6 people at my house. All came in at different times. Walked in the house. What the hell? Why is no one there? People that don't even really give a shit about the game. Like people that did not even care about the game. They were like, why is no one at the game? Oh, I wonder. It's because Miami's a joke. But aside from that, the Sixers, Miami is beatable. Miami showed weaknesses last night. And I'll say it once. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Jimmy Butler can't be the number 1 option on a championship team. Mm-hmm. If you stop Tyler Hero, like, are we really losing our minds over Tyler Hero? Like, are you scared of him? Are you scared of him? Are you scared of him? Are you scared of Gabe Vincent? Duncan Robinson didn't even step on the floor last night. Like, I came out of that game pissed off that they didn't win because they could have. And that's not how I expected to go through that game. I expected to say, oh, shit, Miami beat our ass, and we really need Joel. They need to play a better game in game 2 when they win. This against a team that's, doesn't have Kyle Lowry, but aside from that, it's fully healthy. Mm-hmm. So to me, I came out of that game feeling okay. Pissed off that they didn't put a better effort in, that they weren't able to keep up. But aside from that, game 1 to me, rinse, get out the shower, figure it out, and go to game 2. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I agree. Miami's a beatable team. I think if Joel is in this series healthy start to finish, I think the Sixers win this. I felt that way going in, that it was a better matchup than the Raptors one. Going down 0-2 before going back to Philly and still with the hopes of Joel coming back is not a great spot. Game 2 is very important because of that. We win with game 2. Sixers win game 2, and like they're in a very good spot. In a best of 3 series now with their best player coming back is looking likely. And I don't want to count the chickens before they're hatched in terms of Joel coming back too, because I've seen a lot of just game 3. I mean, let's see. You just don't know with this kind of stuff. So I hope he comes back game 3. They obviously need him, but I wouldn't consider that etched in stone yet. I also do want to give a shout out to Tobias Harris because he was absolutely excellent last night. 37 minutes, 27 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, a block, 11 of 18 field goals. Brought it on both ends of the floor, made some very good defensive plays. He's become their best wing defender, which in one end is an
Who
insult to
would've
the Sixers
thought?
roster, but on another, a credit to Tobias. He cut off their dribble handoffs a ton with Jimmy Butler specifically. He spent a lot of time on Butler. Jimmy got his for a little bit, but overall, a terrific Tobias effort and a guy that showed heart straight up start to finish. He had a play where he missed a little short jumper, got his own board and put it back. He played with the chip on his shoulder, will to win from start to finish that game. I was thrilled with Toby's brought to the table this entire playoffs, and last night was a credit to that. Respect to him for being the only guy who showed up.
Absolutely. We'll keep pounding the Tobias Harris door.
Yeah.
He's been incredible this entire postseason. I think he deserves a lot of credit. We talked about that a lot last pod, for his performance in the Raptors series. But again, last night he brought it. He's the kind of the lifeline on both ends, like you said. And, him becoming a really solid wing defender is, not something I had in the Tobias Harris bingo card. But we got it. So, I can't complain at all. But before we go into game 2, before we look ahead here, we do want to talk about our sponsor, BetUS. You guys can definitely go on there. We talked about it a lot in the first series, but now again, you can do your series futures. You can talk about who's going to win the series, in what fashion, how many games. You can go check out BetUS. They're the leading sportsbook and casino in the market. We're super happy to be partnered with them. You can use our code PICKSWAP at login to get your first bet risk-free up to $500. I am not a good bettor, but I will always take a Sixers live money line when they're down because I love it. I love having that extra reason to root for them to keep going. And if you guys are interested at all, make sure you check out BetUS. It's definitely a great place to get your money on. But to go into game 2 here, like I said earlier, no Kyle Lowry. I guess we can talk about the rest of the series a little bit. Go look ahead a little bit. No Kyle Lowry in game 2. Obviously, no Joel either. But the rest, both clean sheets otherwise for both of these teams. Game 2 is important. Game 2 is, very is going to swing this series one way or another. Leaving Miami 0-2 would hurt and would set you back. I think winning that game puts them in such a perfect position to take over. And like they say, you're not in trouble until you lose at home. And losing at home in the first 2 is really difficult. And having the ability to steal one on the road in the first 2 is a luxury as well. So if they're able to do that, what do they have to do in game 2, and change from game 1? Do you think, Sean, how they had to change from game 1 to take game 2?
Yeah, I mean, the two obvious issues are the shooting and the rebounding. And one of the things when zone defense, which was necessary to switch to for stretches of time, it does make you more prone to giving up offensive boards. And with this Sixers team specifically, I mean, that's been an Achilles heel all year. So they absolutely need to find a way to lock up on the boards. The DeAndre Jordan thing, there's no sense even talking about it because Doc's 1,000% going to play him and play him to probably the most minutes that he can in an acceptable situation. So as much as I think it's obvious to slide him out of the lineup, B-Ball Paul should get the starting minutes. It's not going to happen. They're going to ride with DeAndre Jordan. So I guess from talking from an optimistic lens, like Jordan just has to play like he's actually 7 feet tall, like get some rebounds, show me some sort of activity. Just give me something. Give me something to root for. I feel like the Sixers team, one of my criticisms of this roster is there's so many just one-dimensional guys in terms of Matisse can defend, George Niang can shoot. There's just plenty of guys who just don't have a complete game. When I look at DeAndre Jordan, I can't find a singular thing that I'm just just give me that. I guess just keep being tall, give me more than 2 rebounds, please. You can luck into 2 rebounds if you're 7 feet tall. I mean, it really should not be that hard. So the rebounding battle would make a major difference. They allowed a ton of opportunities. I've seen a bunch of the advanced statistics saying how in 65% of the time, if they shoot those same attempts, that they win the game, which makes it feel worse. I think they were 1 of 12 on open 3-pointers, which is depressing. But I do like the Harden answer after the game saying we obviously want to shoot better, but we're focusing on our rebounding, our turnovers, because actually stuff we can control. So I agree with that mindset. They need to make some changes though.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And there's it's hard to kind of chalk it up to, you got to shoot better. And like you said there, it's difficult to kind of just say, okay, we just, we'll shoot better in game 2 and we'll win. I think they have to do a better job of keeping the ball moving. It happens, it comes and goes, it's ebbs and flows. It's a roller coaster with this team sometimes. And you saw quarter two, late in that first half. First of all, they locked up. They are not going to give up any easy buckets. Obviously, Tobias Harris is the catalyst to that. But you even see James Harden and all the guys lock in, kind of fly around. I think the rotations have to just be tighter. Uh, like it's round two, bro. Like it's round two of the playoffs. You can't have 3 or 4 bench guys out at once. Like you just can't. Like I don't know. I don't know if this is a new thing. Like, is this a new wave of NBA basketball that like you don't do mostly bench lineups? Like, if I see James Harden out there with 4 bench players, like what are we doing? Like, is that acceptable to you at all? Like, are you okay with that?
I mean, I feel like he does not have a lot of options, and I feel like the drop off from like Danny Green to like George Niang is in last night's game was pretty much the same. There isn't that much of a change to me. So I think some of it's not the big deal. I'm still circling back to the biggest responsibility for all that. Like if that's the lineup, James Harden and 4 bench guys, you have to be in attack mode the entire time you're out there, and it's incredibly frustrating me to see you kind of keep sleepwalking through. And I don't think it's a lack of everything. I think he is giving us all he's got, but there just has to be more. And I don't think the Sixers can win this series if it's not James Harden putting on a legitimate performance and willing to at least one of the criticisms of Harden has been like that he'll shoot you out of a game. Let me see that. Let me see you try. Let's go down with you shooting 25 shots. Just give me the at least something. And I would love to see that for next game. I think that's for me the bigger adjustment too is Harden and Maxey just have to be aggressors. Each of you have to just go get your own shots, go seek them out and make it happen. And there's such a lacking of offense, of a creation, guys wanting to create their own. And those are the only 2 guys that can get it. It has to happen. And just pick up the pace too. Let's run. Let's get in transition. That with Embiid off the court, that's the name of the game. And that's creating easy buckets. That's Maxey's the quickest guy on this court still. I don't think they utilize his speed enough. Let's run the break.
Yeah, and there was a point in time I think it was in the second quarter, they got a couple fast break points, and then Miami called a timeout, and you saw Harden say, yes, like go, go. And I think he wants to push the pace. You know what kills that is giving up offensive rebounds, is killing the pace.
Yeah.
So there's a direct correlation there. If you're not getting defensive stops, if you're not, completing the defensive possession, you're not getting out on the break because you're giving up second chance points. I think they settled too much. I think they settled too much for threes. Like I think Tyrese Maxey settled far too often. There was a couple times where it looked like he was just like, all right, I guess I'll shoot this one, which normally is okay. I don't hate those shots at all. Because when they go in, they're incredible, obviously. Yeah. And he's capable of making them. We've seen him make a lot of them this year. But there's just sometimes it's just too often. There was 3 or 4 times last night where I was like, okay, we didn't need that shot. Like a Danny Green step back in the corner, don't need it. I could live without that. So I think shot selection. But then again, they had good opportunities from deep. They really did. They just didn't connect. And they're a team that in order to beat the number 1 team in the East without your best player, you do got to hit on those threes. So again, it's hard to chalk it up to that, but I think better shot selection, ball movement, and like you said, getting out on the break. And pushing the pace. And that's what I said yesterday when someone asked me, what do they have to do? And I think it's making Miami uncomfortable and keeping them on their toes and not letting them settle in defensively is the best way to do it. PJ Tucker did a great job of, being up James Harden's ass, which is, mad annoying, but it is what it is. And that's what he's getting paid to do. Yeah. But the other guys had to take advantage of that, which Tobias Harris did do. A guy like PJ Tucker being taken out of the paint, being taken off of him or any other perimeter guy, he took advantage of that. But I need to see everyone else take advantage of that as well. If Harden's being harassed by him the entire game. So I do agree with you. I think pace is really important, but that all starts defensively.
No, 100%. You're right about the rebounding thing for sure. It's frustrating. My morale. So when I first heard the Joel news, it went out the window. I said, "Wow, well, this season is chalked. It's disappointing." I really do think they could have won the series with Joel. The hope that he will come back, which Joel's a warrior. He's going to play as soon as he can. If he's able to play game 3, that obviously changes a lot, but we don't know the level of Joel Embiid that we will be getting back. This is a beatable team, and that's the frustrating part is the Sixers, and their advantage is having Joel Embiid. That's been why they've been a successful franchise these past few years, because Joel Embiid is on the roster. And when you take that away, there really is not a lot. The Maxey and Harden are awesome. That they should be awesome, but they're not doing enough. Tobias has been great, but that's not enough to carry a team. Everybody else is just straight role players and not enough on a playoff level. So the fact of the matter is we're treading water until Joel gets back. They gotta steal game 2 to find a way, and if they can steal game 2, they have a chance again. But my morale's back dipping.
I'm good. I'm feeling okay. I'm gonna stay positive. I think this is kind of the way that we're gonna go. It's what we did in the first round as well. I think we're good. Like I said, I felt fine. I mean, I was more in the way the Sixers played than the way that the game, the outcome of the game, I guess I should say. Like,
Yeah,
they were there. They were there. They were within arm's reach in the dying, minutes of the game. 10 minutes left in the game, they had a chance. And most of the time, when you shoot 18% from 3 and 32% from the field, and your best player is out, and your second best player is like 5 of 18 from the field, like most of the time, you don't win those games. Obviously they didn't end up winning that game, but you fix a couple of those things. You figure out how to make more than like I'm confident the Sixers shoot better than 18% next game. Like you have to be confident that they're going to shoot better than 18%. You got to be confident that Harden has a better game. I don't think Maxey has back-to-back shitty games. I don't think that Tyler Hero loses his mind the way that he did. I'm not afraid of him. I'm not going to be. I don't care how many times he burns us. I really don't care. But I'm feeling fine. I think at the end of the day, the Sixers are a competitive team that have the ability to compete with this team. And if this is the Miami team that they're facing for the next 6 games, which maybe they'll shoot better, maybe they'll play better, maybe. But the Sixers have a chance in game 2, and then they're hopefully getting the big fella back for game 3 and beyond. And even if it's not Joel, even if it's not the best version of Joel, any Joel is better than any of the other options that we have right now. So I'm confident that if, they figure things out in game 2, they have a chance to really take over this series. And, someone had to win and someone had to lose in game 1. Same thing goes for game 2. So, I'm okay right now.
Yeah. That's pretty much all I got on it. Sixers probably win that game with Andre Drummond. So even a hampered Joel Embiid is certainly improvement over what they're getting.
Yeah. I mean, do you have anything else? You're all good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, you guys stick with us. We appreciate you sticking with us. But game 2 tomorrow night, Wednesday evening in Miami. The Sixers then come back to Philadelphia after that. But we'll talk to you guys later in the week following game 2. If you want to keep up with us until then, make sure you check out Sean's Twitter at Sean_Bernard1. You can follow me at JSpring17. You can follow the pod on Twitter at PickSwapPod. Check out the YouTube. Get us anywhere you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple, iTunes, whatever it is. And finally, make sure you check out BetUS and use our code PickSwap at login for your first bet, risk-free up to $500. We appreciate you guys for always tuning in, and we will talk to you guys again later in the week.